Welcome to Transactional Love Stories. I'm your host, Crystal Hendry, and I'm here with my really good friend, Becky Burdick.
Hi.
How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just coming into Christmas, getting ready to do all the fun family Christmas things.
Oh my gosh, what are your plans?
I'm going to be spending time with my daughter, so I'm super excited for that.
Is she
It's
coming
going
to
to be,
see you?
I'm going to see her. It's going to be a working vacation.
Okay.
So but it's a lot of fun.
That's
Get
right.
to
She
help her.
usually works over the holidays, right? And you help her with that?
They alternate, yeah. So one holiday, one half goes, and the other holiday, the other half gets to go. So when it's her holiday to be working, usually I go to work and help her. So
That's amazing. That'll be great.
yeah,
So
yeah, I'm
wait,
excited.
you're going by yourself, so you won't have your hubby with you?
Nope, hubby's coming.
Oh, he's
Hubby's
coming
coming.
too. Okay, great.
Yep.
Perfect. You're all going to be together.
Yeah. Yeah. Super excited.
Nice. That's
How about
amazing.
you?
Um, it's pretty low key this year. I am visiting my kids. My daughter is home from college. My son is also here, so I get to spend Christmas with them, which is really, really great. Although I did take a house sitting job over the holidays. So for about 10 days, I am house sitting and pet sitting for a family that is going to Disney uh,
Ooh.
for Christmas. Yeah. So I will spend either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day with my family. I'm letting them choose. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's really low key this year. But I'm happy to be able to spend it with family. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I will miss my one daughter who is not going to be home for for Christmas, but um, that's what FaceTime's for, right?
Yep. Yep. Thank goodness for modern technology.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we kind of want to, after workshopping what we wanted to talk about in our fifth episode, which is crazy to think that we are on our fifth episode already. We would love for you to go check out the pilot. We've done a couple of episodes after that, and we're really just trying to find our footing. So, please stick with us. I think we are really starting to find our flow, and those episodes are um, kind of an outline as to who we are and what it is that we want to talk about when we tune in every week. So, we talked about narcissism last week, and one of the things that um, we didn't really tie in, which again, learning process, how that ties into our theme, the transactional love story theme. So, as we were talking about this episode, we were talking about, wow, we really need to tie this in with transactional love stories, and it's the holidays. So, we all have stories about the relationships in our lives during this time of the year where things tend to be really stressful and there's a lot going on, and it tends to bring up um, a lot of things related to the relationships in our lives with children and parents and spouses and work and all of those things. So we're gonna talk about some stories today, yeah?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. Um, you know, it's like you said, stressful time of the year. A lot of people usually come together. There's financial difficulties for a lot of families.
Yeah.
So it's often that during the holidays, things just kind of come to a head in a lot of families. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to discuss what that can be like, what that means, and hopefully give you a few tools to help you work through the holidays with all those family members.
So for you, historically, have the holidays, like specifically like Thanksgiving rolling into New Year's, have those were those a good time in your household, in your family? I mean, how are they now? Like, tell me what's your deal with holidays? What's your feeling?
So, holidays for me, a lot of people would come around. So, we always had my mom's side of the family, my dad's side of the family. So, we usually would split the holidays in half, so Thanksgiving would be uh, lunch at one side, supper at the other side, Christmas Eve at one side, Christmas Day at the other side. So when everybody was together, we were putting on a show, right? So, um, my dad was on his better behavior because we had all these people around all the time.
Yeah.
So it might be the time around. So then I didn't necessarily associate because that's just a regular another day if it didn't happen on the holiday. So he was much better on holidays most of the time. I can't say there was really a standout, but the thing that, and maybe I've brought this up before, but people always say, well, you had good times too, right? Well, but the good times, like I've talked about, the good times are always a guarded good time. I might be sitting back and enjoying, but I'm sitting back and enjoying also with I don't know, a split personality, just waiting and wondering when that next blow up from him was going to be.
Yeah.
Even though I knew chances are pretty good he's going to behave in front of other people, that wasn't a guarantee. Or when I got home, did I do something today that pissed him off that now when I get home afterwards, I'm going to pay for? You just never knew what was going to happen and what was going to set him off. So you could never just fully relax and sit back and just have a great time. There was always that on guard feeling. Now, holidays, since we are no contact, I haven't talked to him since 2016. I can just actually relax for the most part, except if there's going to be a lot of other people around. I'm waiting to see if there's going to be somebody else. And those people that I surround myself with aren't those kind of people, but I'm just so used to having that guarded feeling. It's really hard just to completely relax and enjoy because I'm
Yeah.
like, somebody's got to act up. Somebody's got to blow the whole thing up and make everybody miserable. So
Sure.
I just kind of keep waiting for that. And, that's just something that I'm going to have to untrain my brain from doing. And, because it's only once a year, Christmas is one time a year.
Yeah.
It's not something that I can work on a daily basis. You have to, okay, I worked on it really hard this year. Now it's a whole year again. And so
Do you
I
remember
try to get better.
do you remember a time where so you've been no contact with your dad for how many years?
Gosh, you're gonna make me do math in public.
So Mary.
It's like 9 years, 8 years, eight.
Okay, so do you remember a time where you were more recently no contact, like within the first year or two? Do you remember a time where it was, more difficult than it is maybe now, 8 years out? Was there a progression, like, or was it from the very beginning, you like, you know what, I knew I needed to do this and I'm fine with it? Has it gotten easier? Like, has it gotten harder? Like, what do you think?
Funny you asked that. So it probably took me a good 2 to 3 years at best for me to stop feeling guilt because I was no contact and because of what happened. So my mom asked us to help her get divorced from him. And yet I can't tell you how many times my brain would go back and be like, am I doing the right thing? Did I cause them to get divorced? Is this all my fault? Am I doing something she doesn't want me to do? And, did I overreact by and I'm like, I didn't overreact. She asked for that. And I went no contact because I gave him the choice. I said, well, you cannot act like this, or this is what's going to happen. And you continue to act like this. And moreover, he continued to stalk and manipulate my mom after the divorce was finalized. And it wasn't just, a minor, oh, I bumped into you. He would call her up and tell her, don't you remember? You said I can call you again. You said I can come see you again. You said you wanted to hang out with me again. Complete lies. Because she'd call me up and she's like, I would never say that. She was like, I never called him. She'd show me her phone. He called her. She never called him. He was making stuff up to try and trick her because by that point, she was having problems with her memory, although it was getting better. But he created that doubt in her. And yet, even knowing that's how terrible of a person he was, I'd still sit there and feel guilty that it's my fault this has all happened. And it took me a long time, and it would hit more at holidays because, I was fully aware that he's sitting at his home, completely by himself and nobody to spend the holidays with. And, I think about how lonely that must be. And I'd start to feel guilty. And I'm like, no, hold on, wait a minute. His actions caused that. I didn't cause that. He chose that. He chose to behave that way. So that was the hardest, I think, for the first couple of years after.
Yeah.
And then just to sit back and realize I don't have to be on guard on holidays. Because even as an adult, if something didn't go his way, he would blow up and the holidays would be miserable. But, and saying that, it's funny because, it was right after the holidays that actually was the precipice for all of this with them getting divorced and her finally having a mental breakdown. It was right after the holidays that that happened.
Yeah.
So, I guess, yeah, it makes me go think back now on what I just said about I can't really tell you that the holidays were bad because maybe it was just such a norm for me to always be on guard and always have something happen that I don't even think about anything extraordinary about it,
Yeah.
if
No,
that
I
makes
think
sense.
yeah, of course. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like you don't know any different. That's the environment that you grew
Yeah.
up in, right? So, you figured out a way to cope with it and, no, it was fine. Holidays were fine. Yeah, like
Yeah.
whatever. But
Not
when
even thinking twice about it.
yeah,
And yet I do have an instant and didn't even think twice about it.
yeah.
So,
I think that, you know, there's a there are a lot of there's a lot of conversation about going no contact with parents and adult children going no contact with their parents. There seems to be a lot of you know saying, well, you only have one mom or you only have one dad. How could you possibly do that? All of those kinds of things that are meant to, you know, in my view, shame you into doing something that isn't good for you. And when people make that decision to do that, it is such a difficult decision to make. And just like you
absolutely.
said, it's not like this decision that you make and then all of a sudden it's okay. It takes a lot of, I think, time and I think a lot of conscious work to try to manage that guilt that you were talking about. Um,
Yep, absolutely.
I'm not even, I went no contact with my parents in July, and I haven't had, and I, haven't had contact with them since, and we're rolling into the holidays. Last
Hmm.
year at the holidays, I was staying with them to help out my mom's care, and I was there for Christmas. However, to kind of dictate how I was feeling at the time because holidays have always been kind of strange in my family. Um, I didn't want to spend the holiday with my parents. That's the last thing that I wanted to do. So I ended up taking a house sitting job for people who were going out of town for Christmas. And I did the house sitting job and I went back to my parents for the evening of Christmas Eve to exchange gifts and eat some food, and then I left. And so I was very intentional that I did not want to, spend that entire time with them. And for me, that just seems kind of normal. But I can tell you that there are so many people that said to me, like, why wouldn't you want to be with your family, like, Christmas morning, like Christmas, like during the holidays, right? And it's
Yep.
hard to explain. Why you're not doing that. So the year before I went no contact with them, I was still not in a place where, wow, this is really great and I get to spend all this time with my family over the holidays. It was I actively tried to get out of that. So even that kind of shows that it's a gradual process, um,
Yep.
to make the decision to um, you know leave that relationship. And
Yep.
the sacrifice that we make, that's the thing. We're sacrificing this idea and desire for this healthy, happy family system where we can enjoy spending time together. Um, it's been elusive for me. I know my whole life.
Well, and that's part of the transaction, right? You keep coming back into that situation,
Mhm.
hoping to get something normal out of it and hoping that they'll have this epiphany and be like, you know what? I do love you. I don't know what I was thinking. We hope for that transaction to take place. So we give up our sanity, is what it ends up being at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Give up our sanity in hopes that we'll get something in return that's a positive for us. And, I think over the holidays, well, in any relationship, really, there's transactions happening all the time,
Yep.
right? If you don't behave the way they want you to, the uh, what it comes in return is going to be something very negative,
Right.
and you'll see their true selves. And when you give them what they want, they take it, but they don't give anything positive back. They just take it and expect for you to do the next thing.
Oh, 100%.
So yeah, you're constantly on the giving end of the transaction and they're on the receiving end, and there usually isn't a flip. And when they do start giving something back, it's because there's an ulterior motive in there. There's
Of course.
something else that they want from you. It's not that they want, you know, a healthy transaction is, I want to do something for you, for with no expectations in return. I want to do this because I care about you and I love you, is why I want to do this. Narcissists don't do that. Abusers don't do that. Um,
Yeah, it's
everything,
it's what they want to gain versus what they want to contribute, right? And I
right,
know
absolutely.
for me, my ultimate toxic trait was that I was contributing too much. I was contributing more than my share. I was not only trying to, be me, but I was also trying to, you know, educate them or try to, like you said, try to, express, why this may be working or that why this isn't working, right? I was trying to be myself and also try to show them how to be them when really that's their job, right? Like
Right,
I was, not allowing, someone to be who they really were, because a lot of times when I allowed that, I didn't like what I saw and I didn't want to
yep,
be around it anymore. And so I think that's why we do a lot of that kind of, emotional labor. We think that we can fix it. We think that we're smart. And if they just saw it our same way, that everything would be okay. Um,
right,
and that tends to drown out what's really, coming from them. And I don't think, any of us really want to admit that what you're getting back is very little or is not good.
absolutely. And people always say, well, it's a 50-50 relationship. You have to put in. So does the other person. And it has to be a genuine, it's not a 50-50 relationship when that transaction that's taking place is basically self-sided. Okay, I'll give you this, but only because I'll get that back from you in return.
Right.
That's not 50-50. That's not what that is. And you're absolutely right. Most of us on this side of it, we give, okay, that wasn't quite enough. Let's do a little more. Oh, that didn't do it yet. Let's keep doing more. Well, maybe if I just change and I do this better, maybe then they'll be okay and like me. Maybe if I'm more this, they'll be okay and like me. And we keep giving until all of a sudden, yeah, we're 100% the transaction on the give end, and we're receiving nothing back in return.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's yeah, I think it's hard to navigate, and I really believe that if we closely examine the relationships in our lives, right? And really take a look at them for what they are. I think that's really important. That's something that I didn't do much, I don't think. I mean, I felt very deeply about, relationships. They're complex with parents
Oh
and
yeah.
with my partner or whatever, but I didn't really question what I was bringing and what I was accepting. Right? I mean, I have to say, it's one of the hardest things that I think that we can do as humans is try to step outside and look at ourselves and our relations with the outside world and look at those things and take off the rose-colored glasses. I
Right.
think it's a really difficult thing to do.
It
Um,
is.
but it seems like I don't know, especially at the holidays too. I've talked to a lot of people. I don't know if it's this year, whatever it is, but there's so many people that are not in the Christmas spirit. So many people that are feeling, this. I think you mentioned financial pressure to kind of conform to what Christmas is supposed to be, right? Like buy your way into some sort of happiness, right? Or you
Yep.
can't buy anything at all because you've got, very little. Um, I think that it's a really difficult time for a lot of people, and I think that's because there are a lot of people who are actually trying to start to do this work, to look at, who are we surrounding ourselves with? Are we
Yep.
are we surrounding ourselves, with people who understand us and like us and know us? I think
Oh,
community is super important right now, and you know, I I don't know. A lot of times I think um, holidays bump us up into all of that family stuff. It highlights where the weaknesses may be.
absolutely. And most of us, take this opportunity. Okay, another year's over or coming to a close, and we're reevaluating everything. Like, where am I at in my life? Am I accomplishing the goals I want? And yeah, we start to look at those situations,
Sure.
and the holidays just exacerbates it, in my opinion. And, then you've got all the extra pressures of everything else about the holidays kind of compiling on top of that. And, I think it just comes to a boiling point. And so somebody who is abusive and has those kind of tendencies, it just brings that out even further. And then on top of that, you've got people getting together and oftentimes alcohol's flowing.
Yeah,
And that definitely does not help that situation.
100%.
So, and when we talk about, transactions, when we say 50-50, I'm not talking, okay, I spent $1 on you, you spend $1 on me. That's not what it's about. Or making sure, okay, if I did this, you did this, and I say this, so you say this. It's about wanting to do something for that other person because you want to, because you love them so much, you want to make them happy. And when both people are doing that, so, maybe I'm doing this for you and then you'll do that for me. It doesn't have to be the exact same amount of time or money or resources. It's you,
I
both
think
of you coming together and wanting that same goal for each other.
I think 50-50 has become a kind of a really bad thing because you're
Yeah.
qualifying it by saying, I'm saying 50-50, but that doesn't mean it's a one for one balance sheet, right?
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
I think it's more, and I think this is what you're getting at. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? But it's not 50-50. We're not keeping track. We're not equally like, again, action for action. But what it is about, it is recognizing that this is a relationship that is comprised of two people that need to be aware that the other has needs and wants and say so and agency and respect, right? And that we are
Absolutely.
bringing these things together and we need to work together, to kind of understand the needs of each other and respect the one,
Hmm.
the others, you know, their own things, right? So
Yep.
bringing that in, and I'm telling you, man, like I am not seeing it in practice much these days. I'm seeing, a lot of, again, I read a lot of things, but the divorce statistics are still really bad. People are putting off marriage. The dating apps are a dumpster fire,
Hmm.
Um, this idea of really being able to build on something. I don't know. I think we might have lost the plot a little bit.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I look at, I was just talking to somebody today who was like, and we both came to the same, almost kind of at the same time. It's like people just treat people so badly anymore. And everybody's out just for themselves and
Even
they're
in
not,
relationship, even in partnership or even in any
yes,
sort of relationships, it's become very individualistic. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going.
no, no, you're absolutely correct. And everybody's just out for what they want and it's all about me. And nobody stops and thinks about, other people anymore. And
Collective.
I think that, go ahead.
The collective, yeah. Like I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think that shift happened when, we started to say, a lot of wives and women out there are always trying to be everything to everybody else. So they started to pull that back. But I think we went from let's be reasonable about pulling that back and still being caring and nurturing to screw everybody else. Let's just do this for myself. And, we have to come back around or, you know, we're all going to be toxic.
yeah.
And it's going to be almost impossible to find some, you're almost a diamond in the rough if you're actually a nice person who cares about other people.
Yeah, and those I think are the people that are feeling really kind of beaten down right now
Absolutely.
in a lot of different ways, right? Like I when I think about the anxiety that I had, I remember this last year. Um, I remember the anxiety that I had of explaining to my parents that I was going to take a house sit over Christmas, right? That I would come back and spend, an evening with them, but I was going to be out of the house for, the better part of a week. I didn't want to tell them that because they would be like, well, why are you going to do that? Like, why aren't you like it would not have been, the of course, the response that I would have liked, right? Like, okay, we get it. You're coming off of this breakup, you want some time to yourself. Like, I understand. And, we'll see you on Christmas Eve. Like, there was no, and I knew there wouldn't be. So there was dread
Right.
saying that to them. And then I had to go through
Yep.
that, right? And then, the dread of coming and having to, spend, a happy evening where I got one gift, which was fine, but there was zero thought put into it, right? Like,
Hmm.
it was, and again, I'm appreciative. It was a gift card. It was great. But there was really no sort of thought put into, wow, like, this is my daughter. Who is she? What is she like?
Hmm.
Um, and then this the realization that I wasn't going to be able to spend the holiday with the people that I really loved and cared about, and grieving the loss of I was supposed to be, in a beautiful cabin in the mountains over Christmas, right? And that didn't happen.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
think that, for those of us who have kind of, had our hearts kind of beaten and battered, with generational trauma and family and relationship, I think it's a hard time. We're all
Yeah.
protecting our hearts a little bit, I think. Not that everyone is like me. I know that there are plenty of people out there who have, great healthy families and great
Yep.
healthy relationships, and I love that. I don't
Yep.
begrudge anyone that. Um, but in my experience and in the, my circle of friends, everybody's having a hard time.
Yeah. And what I don't understand is to me, it takes so much more effort to be terrible than it does to be a good person. I think about my relationship with my daughter. Her and I both know and have known for many years that if one of us is going through something difficult, the other one's right there. And, you know, we're 7 hours apart, but we will drive those 7 hours, even if it's just for a weekend, if if the other one of us calls.
Yeah.
And when she calls and she says, Mom, I really need you right now. I'm going through some tough times. It's not like it's, oh God, I gotta go see my daughter. you are happy to, you want to be there and support her. And I know she does the same, although she'll probably tell me that, I owe her big, because she did come.
Right.
But no, but it's so much easier and it's so much more comfortable and it's such a wonderful relationship and it brings me true joy to have that. And I don't understand why more people don't try to do that for each other.
I mean, I think that there are some that are just simply not capable. I believe that
Yeah,
there are many humans that exist where what we're talking about here right now would absolutely not compute at all. It doesn't make any sense that, you know, their reality is very different, and um, it's hard to believe that that's true, but I do believe that it is true that people exist that, it's not in their makeup to act in that way. Um,
yeah.
and we can't understand it. I think it's just an acceptance that is real, and it's hard to I think it's hard to accept that. I was thinking as we were sitting here, I was thinking about, holiday stories, and I've been trying to unpack a lot of family stuff, right? And I remember one of the things I for the most part, I liked the holidays because we got to go visit my grandma, and my grandma was again like a warm, lovey, squishy grandma to me. She baked all the things, and she cooked all the things, and we always, we weren't well off, but we always had a nice Christmas. Toys. We always had toys, and we always had, you know, um, you know, things when they came out. So it was great. We would go to my grandma's house, and it was comfortable, and it was cute, and it was, it was great. It was a time of warmth for the most part. And there was one year, and I remember this vividly. So we're from South Dakota, right? And you know what the weather is like during
Cold, windy,
anything,
cold.
right? And this particular Christmas, it was a blizzard, right? And so we were planning to drive to my grandma's, as we always did, which was a 3 hour or so drive to get to grandma. And it was an active blizzard. I mean, it was terrible. Ice on the roads, all the things. And there was all
Mhm.
this decision making back and forth. Should we go? Should we not go? My parents arguing about, are we going? Are we not going? Whatever. And for my dad to not want to drive in that, my dad could drive in anything, right? But if he didn't want to do it, like it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So the decision was made, we're not going to go to grandma's for Christmas this year. And I think I was probably like maybe fifth or sixth grade, maybe seventh grade, something like that, like, adolescent, teenager, whatever. And I remember my mom losing her mind. I know I didn't see her cry much, but she was really upset, visibly upset that we were not going to go to my grandma's for Christmas. And I remember it was overwhelming to me at that time that, I get it. I was upset too. I wanted to go to grandma's, right? Like I was down. Like I loved grandma's. That's where I wanted to go. But my mom, the way that she fell apart, that she thought that there was no way for Christmas to exist unless we were there. And if we were not going to be there, then Christmas was shit. It's not enough for her to, have her kids warm, safe, and sound around her, and we can have a nice, cozy Christmas at home.
Yeah.
She was distraught because her idea of Christmas was that she wasn't going to get it. And then all of a sudden, like nothing else mattered to her. And
Hmm.
Christmas was ruined, according to her. And, it manifested in, just her attitude and her demeanor and the way that she would speak, just very dismissive and whatever. And I remember thinking, I mean, just when I thought of this story, I haven't thought of it in years, but I was thinking there's an example of where I I don't understand how you're not embracing your kids, right? Because they're also
Right.
upset. Also had little sisters who loved going to grandma's, right? And
Hmm.
instead of it being, you know what, we can't go to grandma's and that sucks, but we're going to call her and then we are going to do our thing, right? Like we're going to, you know, I don't think we hung out together. I'm sure we opened presents or whatever, but it was, it just was not a thing. And I think to myself that it's just so different than how I would be if we couldn't go do something,
Right.
right? Like I mean, I have my kids around me. Like here we are, like we can do a thing.
Yeah,
Um,
we're
and
still alive. It's
yeah, and
great.
it didn't have to ruin the whole day for everyone. It was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was, I hated that. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why it wasn't enough for her to be with us. That
Yeah.
was the thing, right? Um, yeah, be sad we're not going to grandma's. I get it, but it doesn't have to be the end of the world for you and for everyone else because you're in this state, everybody else is too.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I think as a parent's job when you've got kids, especially at Christmas, your job is to comfort and make them be happy. And yeah, yeah, I'm sorry you don't get what you want, but that is what happens in life.
Yeah.
And that sounds to me just like I would call that a full-blown adult temper tantrum.
Oh, sure. Sure.
And,
And I never
if
thought of it like that really until, much later. I thought of it at the time as, yeah, I was upset that we weren't going to grandma's or whatever. But when I think back on how she was with that and how truly upset she was, because I think part of it was an inadequacy that she felt about her own skills to do things like make a warm Christmas, like baking things. She didn't bake, she didn't cook, she didn't do any of those things, right? Like it just wasn't Christmas to her. And I think, like I said, that it made her feel very insecure about the fact that, oh, now I'm going to have to be responsible for making this, a family Christmas with my children, and I've kind of always relied on somebody else to do that. And now I have to do it, and I don't know what I'm doing. I really believe
right.
that's true.
And if she would have just sat down and played some games with you guys,
Never.
watched movies, you never would have, it's not like you would have said, she could have done better.
Yeah.
You
No,
know, you
no.
would have been just happy for her to spend the time with you and enjoy that she got to do that.
Yeah, it was very rare that she sat down to play a game or she, engaged with us. Like she did not watch movies with us. That was not a thing. That was something my dad would do. Like my dad was a big movie guy or whatever. We would watch movies. Um, but yeah, she was not that person. She did not want to hang out with us, really at all, ever.
Hmm.
So but again, I have all kinds of theories about that as well. I also think that there was a dynamic, and I don't know, in your household, you may have had something like this. I don't know. Um, but my dad was the first one to, poke fun at my mom for something. If she were to try to bake something, she would be teased
Oh,
ridiculously for something like that, right? So I think she got to the
yeah.
point where she just wasn't going to try anything like that anymore because he would make fun of her, and then my sisters and I would kind of pile on to that. It was kind of a fun game to make fun of mom, right? I
Hmm.
think that she developed a lot of insecurities about certain things, and just kind of decided, well, I'm not doing those things. I'm not doing that. And so I think that there were a lot of things that played into that dynamic, where she didn't feel safe enough to sit down and have some fun with us because she thought she was gonna be made fun of, or
Right.
or she just didn't enjoy it, and that's fair.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yep.
But I think we all missed out, unfortunately.
Right. Yep. So now that we're almost into full-blown Christmas season here, it was just a couple
Woo.
of days away.
Yep.
We also thought that it would be a great opportunity to talk about some of the things that you can do to help you hopefully survive this. So, one of the things that I wanted to mention and bring up is how do you handle a narcissist? And one of the best ways that I have found, I have done a lot of reading on it, is don't react to them. When they start having their adult temper tantrum, don't give them any attention because they even want negative attention. The even if you yell at them and get angry or you laugh and anything that they get from you is attention. So think about it like a 2-year-old is it's because that's exactly how they're acting. But, when somebody's acting up, the worst thing you can do is say something to them, good or bad. The best thing that you can do is just turn around and walk away. And it baffles them. They don't know how to handle that.
There's a good term for it. Have you read about the gray rock method?
I have not.
So gray rocking is basically what you're saying, right? So it is if you can't completely avoid the situation or the conversation or whatever it is, just like Becky said, gray rocking is what it's called. And that's where you don't you don't react emotionally to anything. It's very short sentences. It is, short answers, but no sort of acknowledgement that they're getting under your skin or, they're trying to get a reaction out of you. And the best thing that you can do, I think, is either avoid the situation or the conversation entirely if you're able to do that. If you roll up to Christmas and your politics are different than your uncle's, and he wants to have a conversation about this, and you don't want to or don't want it to get blown up into something, just don't react, right?
Yeah.
It's hard. It can be hard. Um, but honestly, the best thing that you can do if you want to keep the peace, throughout the Christmas holiday is to avoid it or, don't engage in any sort of deep, meaningful way. Make it boring
Yeah. I mean,
for them. Yeah, and throw them off.
yeah. Zone out. You don't have to sit and actually listen, like daydream, think about something else,
That's
and
when
then
I'm
just be
headed to
like,
the kids' table, man. Like that's where I'm at. Like I don't need to sit
right?
talk politics with all the adults. I'm going to the kids' table and we're going to talk about
Yep.
music and we're going to talk about what's going on in school and whatever. I would much
Yep.
rather um exit from that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Pull out the crayons. Let's sit and color and enjoy ourselves.
Something.
And you all go sit and have your temper tantrums and fights over there. So,
Yep.
yeah, and it's kind of fun to watch them as they're sitting there like baffled because you didn't give them back that reaction.
Yep.
I knew somebody who used to always come up and want to fight about politics, and I would just be like, okay, well, that doesn't make you mad. No, no, you can think whatever you want. Don't care.
Right.
Well, huh? They just they just literally stopped, huh? And I'm like, well, let's hear it. Well, and then they just totally, it just took all the wind out of their sails and, totally switch gears. And it was like no fun because they weren't getting that fight back and forth that they were so looking for.
Yeah, and they'll find someone who will engage with them. So if
They will.
you make it difficult, they're lazy too. They don't want
Yeah.
hard, right? So if you're not going to give it to them, they'll move on to somebody else, hopefully. That
Yeah.
engage in that way. So um
Yep.
yeah, no, I think that's an definite important coping skill for, meeting up with family or, friends or whatever that um there's the potential for some sort of conflict. Shut it down.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so there's one. What's another one? Another tool.
So another tool that I would like to bring up is meditation. Give yourself time every day for gratitude and meditation, and those can be one and the same. I've talked to people, and I myself, when I started to hear about meditation and even gratitude, it came during a time when I was just so angry. And, it was that year that was getting divorced with my parents. And it was a crazy year all the way around because so many different things were happening around me, like bad things. And some of it was to other people, but they were close to me. So it was like their pain was my pain on top of what I was going through.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. I can't even get my brain to shut up for 10 seconds to even try to focus on relaxing. And one of the things I found was audio. So, YouTube, where we have our podcast hosted, it has a lot of great audio music. If you search for it, you can have frequencies that help you to relax, that help you with anxiety, and so you just put it in the search bar, relaxation frequency, and it'll give you several different Might be like little songs or sounds, like maybe the wind blowing through the trees or ocean waves or something like that. Ocean waves are my personal favorite.
Yeah.
But it helps you just to start to quiet your brain, and your brain is focusing on that sound. And as you're listening to that sound, try and visualize standing and witnessing that spot. And as your brain starts to focus there, it focuses less on the negative around you or what's happening around you. And that's how I started to get into meditating. And so I would just, okay, so I love ocean sounds. So I'm sitting on a beach and I can feel the waves, you know, roll in and hit into me. And I listen to how the goes back out across the sand and what that sounds like. And, can I feel the wind hitting me? Can I hear the birds around? Which, by the way, the ocean's very loud and you can't hear the birds like you do on some of those soundtracks. But just the sit and think about how it smells, how it feels, how it looks. And as you're thinking about that and visualizing actually standing there while it's happening and you're listening to this, it really quiets your mind down. Repeat that over and over and over again, and then sit there and think about how you feel and how relaxed you feel when you're at that moment. And that's the feeling that you can come back to and recall when you're in another stressful situation and maybe you don't have that sound with you or the opportunity to sit back and just, okay, let me do this. Just have that where you just mentally go back to that spot, and it is a muscle memory. It's your brain muscle working, but it brings all that back, and you can teach yourself to calm yourself down in times of need where you can't always utilize all of your tools.
I agree that meditation is super important. And yeah, there are a ton of resources out there all over.
Yep.
And I still think, I mean, you hear meditation all the time, right? And I still think that there is, there sometimes there's this idea that, oh yeah, meditation, right? But I don't even know how to do it. I don't even know what to do,
Yeah.
right? And I think that there's such a spectrum. Even if all you do is sit in your chair for 10 seconds and close your eyes and breathe in and out, right?
Yep.
That's meditating, right? I don't know. I haven't worn mine for a long time, but I had an Apple Watch where you could have the settings where the haptic would vibrate on your wrist and it could prompt you to stop whatever you were doing and breathing. That was such a great thing for me for such a long time. Um, you know, there's so many guided meditations with music or with
Yep.
speaking for all different kinds of things. But honestly, like if you just force yourself to stop for a minute, 30 seconds, sometime throughout your day, just to quiet the mind for just a little bit.
Yep.
And meditation is a practice that 100% is true. You're not It's not something that you're going to necessarily feel comfortable with right out of the gate. You practice, you keep trying, you
Yep.
keep doing, do different things, right? And there's no wrong way to do it. I think that's the thing. There's all different kinds of methods and modes of doing it, but there is no wrong
Yeah.
way. So, that imposter syndrome of thinking, oh, I can't do that. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm going to do it wrong. Like, oh, what if I sit down and meditate and my mind won't shut off? Well, welcome
Yep.
to humanity.
All
Um,
right.
everybody has that struggle. So, but super important if you're at that holiday event and you need to step out of the kitchen and step outside and take in some cold, deep breaths
Yep.
and clear your mind for a minute. It sounds like such a little thing, but it's huge.
Huge. And if you try one thing and it didn't work for you, try something else. So if a guided meditation doesn't work, try music. If that doesn't work, try, like you said, breathing. Even
Yep.
if you can't step outside, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, you know, and just sit in the bathroom and just regather yourself, regroup. If you can go out, walk around the block, if that's
Yep.
something that's possible.
I think
Exercise is
that's
amazing.
great. Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say, like taking a walk, moving your body. It is such a small thing, but so many of us don't make that conscious effort to do
Yep.
that. especially when
Gets
we,
your
we
cortisol to
need,
release.
yeah, 100.
Yep.
Yep. So move your body, do some meditation, ignore people who are going to, harsh or mellow during the holidays.
Right.
Don't allow it to happen. Right.
Yep. And then gratitude. So,
Yeah.
I would hope if you're around a bunch of family that there's got to be one person there who, maybe you've got a niece or a nephew or a grandchild or somebody who's cute and adorable and you can sit back and enjoy. Have gratitude how cute they are or how much they loved when they opened the present or something that they said or the fact that the sun came up
Yeah.
or that you made it to another Christmas. Not everybody gets to come back around to another Christmas. So there's so many different things that you can be thankful for. It doesn't have to be an earth-shattering, mind-moving thing. It can just be something simple. I love the
Yeah.
color of the sky today. It's a really pretty blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something simple like that.
Yep.
And having gratitude can actually change your brain structure. So it's something that every day when you wake up and when you go to bed at night, most of us with our busy minds, it takes us forever to fall asleep. Perfect time to sit there and think about, ooh, what am I thankful for today? I woke up. That was great. And I'm lucky I have a job that I get to go to every day.
Yeah.
There's people out there that wished they had a job. So, there's always something that you have that you can be thankful for.
Sure. And I think expressing gratitude also is a really good thing. I know that when I do that, and it's sometimes hard for me to do that, um, but expressing it to someone, um,
Yeah.
or who they are in your world, right? Send that
Oh
text,
gosh, yeah.
so grateful to know you, whatever it is. And again, these are all little things, but I think they can really help you manage getting through this stressful time of year. I mean, does anybody even like go out Christmas shopping anymore? I feel like everybody is shopping online, that's just getting more and more and more each year, right? I mean,
Yeah.
not, I have not gone out Christmas shopping. I did a couple of little things, but as far as the way it used to be when I used to go and Christmas shop in stores,
Yeah.
people still doing that? Are people braving crowds? Are there crowds? I don't know.
There's still crowds.
Are there?
Hobby Lobby during the month of November and December
I suppose.
is a giant crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to sometimes find gratitude in the middle of a crowd where, everybody's, stressed out or whatever. But those are the times, where, like we were talking about before, stepping outside of yourself and realizing, oh my God, I'm really annoyed, I'm angry, I'm stressed in this moment, like I'm overwhelmed, right? Just taking that two
Yep.
break to be like, okay, deep breath, like I can get through this.
Relax.
Yeah.
Well, and I've been there myself where I've been so angry by some of the things going on around me. And it's like, for God's sakes, now I got to deal with this on top of this, and this. And that's when I really started to pay attention to I have got to change my narrative
Yeah.
because if I don't, I'm only hurting myself.
Yeah.
Every time that, I keep coming back to those thoughts and feelings of "Ah, I'm so angry that this happened to me." I have to stop and be like, nope, because I'm just aging myself. I'm causing myself physical damage by always going back to that negative anger.
Yeah. Well, and for our audience too, like I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence who's listening here. We're not reinventing the wheel, right? I'm sure these are things that we are talking about that, you know, that are very familiar. I think it's a reminder though that
Yeah.
there are tools out there and, you know,
Well,
trying
like
to
you said,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, a reminder, but also, when I the first time, I was at that point where it's like, to do meditation, I'm like, well, how the heck is that even supposed to work? How am I supposed to do that? I'm so pissed off. And I try to sit there and calm my mind, and it's not working. I was just
Yeah.
where do I even start? That doesn't make sense. And what you said too, am I going to do it wrong? I'm probably not even, I don't even know how to do it. That's why I'm bringing up what I'm bringing up. It's not to insult your intelligence, just like you said. It's that reminder on this is the time of year you need to do those things the most. And don't stop or not start just because you're in a very bad spot. This is the perfect time to do it.
Well, and I wanted to say on the other side of the coin too, also don't feel guilty about being a shit show. Things are overwhelming, and if you're
Right.
overwhelmed, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. If you're like, you know what? I don't feel like meditating. I don't feel gracious about much of anything. Like that's a whole thing, right? Like it can happen. So don't feel like you're bad
Yep.
doing something wrong if, it's a really overwhelming time. But again, I think it's just a reminder that when we're feeling kind of overwhelmed by all of this stuff that's, coming up for us at the end of this crazy year, that's totally okay. I think I want to say that we're all in the same boat. We may have different outfits on. We may be in
Yep.
various stages of floating and sinking, but we're all in this together, and we talk about these things because we are feeling these things. And so, you're not alone here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
Well,
I think that's
we talked enough.
what we wanted to address for this week.
Yeah, we want to
And
make sure that we're rolling into the holidays with something interesting to listen to. I hope we've
yep,
achieved that a little bit, right? And then it's going to be Becky for the next episode or two, right?
yeah, we'll see if I can get past listening to myself all by myself. Um, but again, we would love to have your feedback and your questions, topics you want to hear us discuss. And yeah, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, you should be able to leave comments on our YouTube page. We do have an email address as well. It's TLS Stories Info, right? Is that right? At
Yep, I think
gmail.com?
so. Yep,
TLS TORIESINFO at gmail.com. Feel free to email us. Um, yeah, and we're getting some views. Nothing crazy, but somebody is out there listening. So whoever you are, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us talk about these things that are on our mind.
absolutely. Well, we wish you all the merriest of Christmas and a happy new year and take care. And hopefully what we said today can help.
Happy holidays, everybody.